Welcome back for another book review. Today we are talking about this one. This is The Book of Spells, The Magic of Witchcraft, and was previously published as the teen spell book by Della. This book is not what either of those titles would suggest. This is a very basic beginner Wiccan book. It's got stuff you would typically see in a Wiccan book: Wheel of the Year, deity concepts under Wicca, triple goddess. You got the very, very classic of Margaret Murray's theory of the goddess cults and such. That's there, yep. And also you've got super basic, really teeny tiny descriptions for like tarot and runes. Runes being, you know, just a magic system. That's it. So, cool. And so on. And the second half of the book is spells, and it has your usuals. Protection. The money prosperity section was more of, she called it productivity, which felt kind of weird, but the first one's like money, and then like get a job, stuff like that. So I mean it's kind of money-ish, but she also has a weird relationship with money that's very common in Wiccan spaces. Like, you're not supposed to like charge to do a spell for somebody because money's bad, and it's like, okay, but then you're gonna take that energy and then ask for money? Okay, that feels weird. But yeah, so you're not supposed to, that's just one of the things that I don't love about a lot of Wiccan things, is there's many, but yeah, that's just one that's like, okay. But then you got your usuals of health, but thankfully it's more spectrum health, as in like your mental state, how you're just generally feeling, not like some that we've recently done on the channel that's like, what? Hold this crystal, it'll fix your autism. Give them this rock and it'll fix everything. Women can still use Tylenol. Watch, if they start actually coming for free speech and I just magically disappear, that's why. But it's also got relationships, protection, so on and so forth. I gave it a 3. It's a bad 3. So again, my scale is technically a 7 scale point, but I break the 3 into 3, because why not? I can do what I want, it's my channel. But it's on the bad end. It's not like the worst thing ever written, but it's also really not that great either. Like, as far as a Wiccan book goes, it's pretty run-of-the-mill. If anything, it's actually kind of lacking on a lot of things that you would find in better books on specifically Wicca. And it also is very like eclectic Wicca, not a particular tradition Wicca either. And it does the thing of Wicca and witchcraft are the same. They're just a little bit different, but then constantly is just mixing and matching the terms as you go throughout the book. So they really do just consider them the same. And at least so close enough that they should be interchangeable, which is like, okay, that's a choice. And again, it has the system of Wicca and witchcraft have the same like moral compass. They do things the same. And it's not for me. And I think the original title actually fit it better, which is the teen spell book. It does feel very aimed towards like teen vibes. Like, it's not really for adults. I mean, it's not like the most childish book, but just the writing, the style, it feels very, for lack of better wording, more fluffy, as we used to call it back in the day. But it does feel like the old Silver Ravenwolf books that were aimed at teenagers. It just has that vibe to it. Not necessarily the bad part of this book, but it definitely does feel like it fits more of that demographic than more modern practitioners would go for. Again, there's just better books on Wicca in particular. And like the only one that I actually was mildly intrigued with spell-wise was Solve Legal Matters. And it's one of those that you're just like, I should bookmark that. But also, I would definitely do it my own way anyway, so do I need this book to tell me what to do? Probably not. But that would just be more of like when I'm doing my surrogacy, you do have to have lawyers involved. And so, buy my books so I can afford it. Watch my channel. That actually is the thing that makes me more money, so just binge my channel, okay? But that's expensive, and then you have to have lawyers to sign so much paperwork and to be like, yep, it's mine, they're gonna do the thing for me. That's the only time that I'm like, that would probably be helpful just to like make sure that process goes smoothly. But even then, I would probably write my own A, because I'm literally a witchcraft author, so that would be kind of silly to not do my own, and to B, it does not exactly fit the scenario that I would need it. So, other than that though, they were just kind of, like, they're not bad, but also, like, I would suggest, like, Deborah Blake's books and her spells over these ones, because hers are also pretty simple as well, and they are more Wiccan based than anything. So it's like, if you're gonna pick one or the other, you know, like, I would choose Deborah Blake first. Now, on to some specific things from this book, because there's a few. So first, starting on, and there was actually quite a bit, I decided just to try and keep this a little brief, because I've had so many with so many notes, so it's like, we're just gonna go highlight reel edition today. So there's definitely others that we could have talked about, but these were just some of the highlighted ones that I was like, yeah, I need to talk about this. Starting off strong on page 3, it's a really long quote, so I didn't write down the whole thing, but it's from Edward Bach, I think I'm supposed to say his name, and it might sound familiar because in the Encyclopedia of Crystals, Herbs, and New Age Elements by Adams Media, they also had a section about him. And did you know, they talked about him more in that book. He is a pseudoscience bro. That's the best way I can describe it. The other book talked about it more, but basically this guy, while he did study and, like, I think he actually did become a doctor, he also doesn't believe in research and just his own vibes and his own, and like, his intuition told him more than scientific study. So his entire concept is not based in scientific theory and therefore really should not be taken with any kind of seriousness, because science is a great thing. If it cannot be replicated via science, it is a placebo effect at best. Next, we've got on page 7. See, this is where I was like, we're gonna have to get particular because there's so many. So, page 7. It is a personal choice whether you identify as a witch or a Wiccan. Wicca is an earth-based lifestyle and hierarchical religion. Being a witch is also an earth-based lifestyle, but self-directed. Both paths follow and celebrate the rhythm of nature and abide by the Wiccan Rede, do what thou will as long as you harm none, often shortened to simply harm none, and the threefold law. No, just no. There's so many things with that. First of all, Wicca does not have to be the hierarchical thing unless you're only going with, like, the old school beginning tradition. But there's a lot of modern ones that don't follow that. There's a lot that have kind of moved away from the more gendered stuff that would still consider themselves Wiccan. And, like, also witches are not the same thing. There are so many witchcraft traditions, and anyone who says that witchcraft is like a one thing, I just immediately roll my eyes, because, like, I'm gonna be for real. The amount of books I have read has proven the point that no path ever fits the anything. Like, there is not, like, one thing that, like, makes this witchcraft. It's just a really big grading scale, right? Like, there's so many shades of different options, and everything just crisscrosses and mix matches, but certain things do qualify into particular traditions. They set their own little boundary box, and then they live in that box. While they might acknowledge other things exist, they live in this box to claim this tradition. And witchcraft is pretty broad. You can be a Christian witch, you can be an atheist witch, you can be a chaos witch, you can be a pagan witch. Like, there are so many options, and none of them are the same. And a big thing in witchcraft versus Wicca is your ethics, your moral compass. It doesn't have to be the Wiccan one. Most of us tend to follow it, or the golden rule. Do what you will, harm none. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. The usuals. Mostly just don't be a horrible person and do what you want legally, pretty much. But even that's kind of iffy. Just don't be a horrible person, basically. It's kind of the general vibe, but also there's plenty of witches who believe in defensive magic and even offensive magic. So, no, that's not a thing. And also the threefold law is pretty coded as Wiccan. Typically you're going to find that more in Wiccan-based things rather than witchcraft-based things, where in, like, general witchcraft, it's more, at most, like, cause and effect kind of an attitude, not threefold. Which even of itself, you look at various witches and Wiccans and everyone ever, and you're going to get so many different answers. There is no, like, single belief system. if this channel has proven anything, it's that. We've read so many books, or at least I have, and you've come along for the discussions, but like, there is nothing that is like concrete for much of anything. Speaking of which, later on that same page, ancient followers honored the two forces, the female goddess of fertility, creation, and the birth giver of the male god of hunt, death, and rebirth, and the essence of the fields and forests. And I literally, my note was like, Margaret Murray? And then the next page it was confirmed. So yeah, that just gives you context of where we're coming from, where her theory is so heavily beyond belief disproven, and yet it continues to be a modern myth that like Wiccan authors in particular just refuse to let go. They just are like, but I love it, and they just don't want to accept that it was disproven. So many times she cherry-picked the information and twisted the evidence to fit her narrative, and again, it's been disproven by every direction possible. There are pagan scholars out there who went, no. And there are atheist, Christian, doesn't matter. It's been so disproven. So anytime you see her quoted, it's always just a little part of me, the cringe is real. Next, we've got on page 9. See, I told you, this is really when I was like, okay, I've gotta pump the brakes on how many times I talk about things. Page 9. Some covens strive to have an equal number of females and males during ceremony. This is known as a perfect couple and is a simulation of the perfect union of goddess and god. To which I say, that's some not so subtle homophobia. And I'm sure there's others, you know, as an A-switch, little annoyed. But also, again, like as somebody who is going to eventually become a mom via surrogacy, also a little icked. And then also bigger, gay people exist. Like, to say it's the perfect couple, like, ugh. You know, like, just no. And I'm pretty sure science, within like a couple hundred years, you will not need to have the traditional two-coupling situation to create a child. But also, that doesn't make it a perfect couple. Anyways, like, you don't need to procreate in order to be a good couple. That's just so many levels of no. So we're gonna skip a ways in to page 42. You have responsibility over your actions, and you should be able to take full credit for your achievements. There are no failures, only lessons to learn and moments to experience. Spirit wants nothing more than to support you as you experience the joys and the struggles along your path, and to see you flourish, blossom, and grow. You've come home. To be perfectly honest, this is the general attitude that absolutely broke my witch hood this year, because no, actually no. The thing is this can lead to some very toxic mindsets. Not everyone will experience this, but also to say that it never will is also pretty toxic. And to me, it's giving toxic positivity. It's giving gaslighting, because your spells will fail. There is no chance. You will never have a spell backfire. You will never have a spell that goes horribly wrong or just doesn't do anything. It just fizzles into nothing. All of these are completely valid options that happen. And if you constantly tell yourself, but the divine says otherwise, or something better is coming my way, eventually more crap happens wrong in your life, and all of your spells to counteract that continue to go worse. And at some point, like me, you might start to turn it and say, okay, well, maybe I don't deserve these things. Maybe I'm not worthy. I have to prove myself. I have to be worthy enough for these things. And, you know, it comes from a place of privilege, where if you're doing spells specifically to get out of bad situations and then it never happens, inevitably, year after year after year of it, it's gonna break your brain. It's gonna break your craft. At least it did for me. And I've seen other people also really struggle with this. You hit like and that's the bad part, is that there's like no witchcraft version really of a video. Huge discussion talking about the crisis of faith as a witch, where your spells are failing constantly, and this sort of crap does not help. Because sometimes life is just a random gamble and it doesn't go in your favor and everything sucks. And you actually don't have as much power as you want. And like, there's so many systems against you. And it sucks. And I'm gonna be real, sometimes it does feel like the gods favor others over some. And it's like, you see like really terrible people getting really good stuff, and then you're over here struggling, trying to be a good person, and you're like, make it make sense. And this attitude does not help. And then lastly, before my camera overheats because it's really mad, it wants me to just be done for a minute. So the last one is on page 66. You can cleanse your crystals in many ways, such as leaving them under the full moon, wafting sage or palo santo smoke over them, both of which are endangered, so keep that in mind. Soaking in salted water or washing them in a moving body of water such as the sea or a stream. Never fails. Why would we ever include any warnings? So this is your current PSA that I will forever and always state. Not all crystals are water safe. I just don't recommend you cleanse any of them in water, other than like if they get really gross, and then double check to make sure they're not gonna melt away in water. Not all of them are water safe. And then also like cleaning it in like running water, like, do you know how much bacteria is in streams and the ocean? It's not exactly clean places, right? Like, you can use like your tap water that's been cleaned and purified, it's okay. Or like a bottle of water, it's okay. If you gotta use water, you know? Like, make your own moon water and then use that if it's a water safe crystal. But why would we ever mention that? And then also, why would we not mention like using like not white sage? You can use other sages. There's plenty of sage that exists. My favorite is sagebrush sage. I don't know what it actually, I don't know if that's even the real name, but that's what we call it out here, is sagebrush. And that is my favorite thing to cleanse with. Is it a pain in the butt to make? Yes, because you have to like leave your house to go get it, and it's a pain. But like, I just have to go up to my dad's house that has like thousands of sagebrush and just collect some and make it. I just haven't in years. And same with Palo Santo. I think it's, I don't know if it's completely on the endangered list, but it's getting there, so like, maybe don't use that too much. It is one of my personal favorites. I really do love it. I haven't bought it in years, and it lasts for freaking ever if you don't use it very often. But there's been a bigger discussion on not using it anymore, so like use different woods instead. Like cedar or pinyon smells so good that it would probably do a similar effect. And so it just like, there's no warning about that, but of course not. Why would there be? And then, of course, no surprise to anybody, no conclusion and no sources. Shocking to none. So I would only recommend this if you are a beginner Wiccan and you're just wanting another book to devour. Is it the be-all end-all book? No. If you're wanting to do more Wicca stuff and you're wanting to really dive into Wicca, I would probably say move to like Raymond Buckland, hardcore Wiccan. He's got a lot of stuff. And he's got a lot of books, and it's very obviously heavily coded Wicca. And also Scott Cunningham, a little more milder version of Wicca, and even some of his later books, he kind of wasn't as Wiccan, but also they're older now, you know? And so even like Deborah Blake, she's pretty Wicca based in a lot of ways, a lot of similarities to Wicca and Wiccan practices. Christopher Penczak is kind of moving away from that and a little bit more of just like witch in general. But I mean, there's still a lot of elements that are still very Wicca and pagan-esque. So anyways, it's not the worst thing ever, you know? Didn't say your crystal's gonna, you know, cure autism or tell you to put things in your body for a week and then feed it to somebody. Like, we've got some really bad ones out there. It's not that bad, but also, meh. So I would love to know your thoughts on this one in the comments down below. A huge thank you to my patrons. If you would like to support me, get access to exclusive content, talk about other books. I have my Monday Fun Day-ish. Right now they're not the fun ones. They're my banned books. I needed to drag them out because holy crap, they make you feel so horrible. They're, oh, you gotta be in a good mental space for those. They are rough. And I still got 2 to go and I just don't want to. But then I have fun ones. I have a comic book I'm gonna try and read, even though I hate comic books. It's just not the month of fun books, to say the least. Like, I have some that I'm like, I want to read these. Will I get to them? I don't know, because I want to read the Sally's book, which is the first one. Apparently there's now a second one. I don't know if I'm gonna read it in time for this year, but I feel like maybe I should. Maybe I'll just read it in November, who cares? And then also the Hocus Pocus book, that's like the true sequel. I need to read that. I need to watch the movie and then read it. I'm also going through STOW by Christopher Penczak, the 3rd book in his Temple of Witchcraft series. Still need to do that this week, actually. That's what I'm gonna do for the rest of the afternoon. Still got more of that to do. I'm doing it every week because that is the only way I will ever do it. You're supposed to do it that way? No, I do it my way. Come at me, Penczak, because I have so many questions. Mostly like how to remove the pagan side of things. That's really fun. That's what I'm doing. I'm taking the pagan side out of it and putting in like chaos magic. It's a blast. So if you want to hear my chaos, it's over on Patreon. And until next time, it's overheating. So I'll talk to you all later. Bye!